Hey, small business owners, welcome to Unleashing Video Marketing for Businesses, where we dive deep into the world of video marketing as top experts reveal their secrets and strategies to power up your growth. Ready to elevate your business? Then get set, camera speed, and action. Hey, everybody. Welcome to Unleashing Video Marketing for Businesses, a podcast designed to give you the best tools on how to leverage video the right way to scale your business. I'm your host, Frank Battiston, and today we have Wayne Mullins, the founder of Ugly Mug Marketing in Louisiana. And he did not only talk about video marketing, as we always do with other experts, but also on how to create aligned and effective teams so you can grow, scale your organization the right way, and have that company, that dream company you've always wanted. Here you go. Hello, everybody. So we're here with Wayne Mullins from Ugly Mug Marketing. How are you today?
I'm doing well. How about yourself?
Very good. It's been a very busy month for us, and but it's fun. We get to definitely learn from our clients every day. And as we do more of these episodes, we get to learn from experts like you. So we're very excited to have you here today because we know that you have a very busy schedule. And yeah, just to get into it, so you're the founder of Ugly Mug Marketing. If you could tell us a little bit of where you came from, your work, your career, and how you founded the agency.
Absolutely. So my background is not overly exciting. I was born and raised in a small town in the other LA. I know you're in the Los Angeles area. I'm in Louisiana. I am in a small town called Alexandria, Louisiana. So for most people listening, you've probably heard of New Orleans, and you probably have certain images that come to mind, right? When you think of New Orleans, it's a party city, sights and sounds. So if you picture all of that in your head, you think about the sights and sounds that you would associate with New Orleans. Now picture the polar opposite. That is Alexandria, Louisiana. Small town, very boring, not a lot of excitement. But it's from this little town that I've actually grown this agency, that we've worked with, multiple New York Times bestselling authors, Fortune 100 companies, clients from around the world, all from this little tiny city with, no connection, so to speak, no outside investment, no money. And I share that to say that if it's possible for me, it's possible for anyone, right? So I didn't grow up with a lot of money. I didn't grow up with a lot of connections. I did grow up with determination and stubbornness and the willingness to do whatever it takes to figure things out. So I just wanted to say that as I jump in. But again, I grew up in this small town. My background is actually sales. I love selling. I love studying sales. And for those who've studied selling or marketing, you probably know that sales and marketing, in terms of what's required to be good at them, they kind of intersect. They overlap a lot, which is really, at the end of the day, it comes down to psychology and math, right? So selling and marketing is all about psychology, understanding people's needs, their desires, their wants, their kind of hidden motivations. And the same is true with marketing, right? It's our job as marketers to figure those things out and position our products and our services in such a way that it speaks to people where they are. So all that to say, studied sales to get my career started, if you will. And then 15 and a half, almost 16 years ago now, I decided to launch Ugly Mug Marketing.
Okay. And so before we get into more, and specifically how you basically operate the agency, I found a very interesting podcast where you explained where the name came from. And I think it comes from a very cool lesson that a lot of our audience members could listen to now. If you could tell us a little bit about this.
Absolutely. So it's not named after me. It's not because I'm so ugly that I called the company Ugly Mug. It comes from a quote by this gentleman of the name David Ogilvy. So David Ogilvy at one point was the founder of the largest ad agency in the world. Ogilvy and Mather still today is in the top 10 largest ad agencies in the world. Inside of David's own agencies, though, he was known for this one quote or this one phrase: internally. And that was this: I would rather you bring me an ad that's ugly and effective over one that's beautiful but isn't. And so the name Ugly Mug Marketing really is just to play off of that idea. That is our North Star. That is the thing that we have to keep front and center. In the marketing world, particularly, it's very easy to get distracted by shiny objects, by beautiful websites, by beautiful images, the most glamorous looking social profiles. All those things can distract us. At the end of the day, what matters is results, right? It doesn't matter if it's beautiful. It doesn't matter if it's quote unquote ugly. All that matters is, are we generating results for our clients?
Yeah. Awesome. Awesome. Yeah, definitely something to keep in mind, especially as a business owner, because one of the reasons we created this podcast, and I know you talk and teach to a lot of agencies, marketing agencies, and it's wonderful. I got to learn so much from this other podcast. But the reason we created this one is because we wanted to, in video marketing, to have people that own businesses to think more like marketers instead of just having a very acute view of how to make it work. And sometimes they think that just one video is going to solve all of their problems. So yeah, when I saw where the agency's name came from, and I just needed you to tell us, because that's one of the lessons that we really want to tell here. And it's that many times when we're working with social media clients, they want something that it is out of a broadcast TV show, but there's no purpose and there's no targeting, and there's basically they're talking to an audience and to a customer that is not even theirs, and it's not even close.
Yep, absolutely. It's very easy to be lured down that path.
Yeah, and in reading about your agency, there was a section that really impressed me, and it's that you focus on building great teams and high performance cultures. So what practices do you use at Ugly Mug Marketing to achieve this?
Yeah. So quick backstory with this. So again, I mentioned in the opening that I've had this agency now for almost 16 years. And today, by all measures, financially, team, all the things, we're very successful. But the first 7 years of this agency, that was not the case. As a matter of fact, it was the polar opposite of that. My life was miserable. I couldn't find good team members. Our clients were not happy. Our vendors were not happy. Nobody was happy, right? Nobody was happy. It came to this one day when I brought a friend with me to a mastermind luncheon. It was a mastermind meeting. And over lunch, the topic for that conversation that day was team and how do you build a team. And as we walked into the room, what's interesting is my friend had come to me for advice. He said he was considering selling his business. He had an IT company, so information technology, helped offices set up internet, computers, all that kind of stuff. And he was pretty successful, but a small company. And he'd come to me saying, look, I'm considering selling my business. But what do you think? And I knew a lot about the company, his revenue, all that kind of stuff. And I said, look, if you just grow it a little bit more, you will probably make 10 times as much when you sell the company. If you just grow your business just a little bit more, not a huge amount, just a little bit more, like 25% more. So I brought him to this lunch thinking, this is it. This is the opportunity for other entrepreneurs to kind of speak to him, so to speak, and convince him indirectly that he should grow his business. Well, as luck would have it, the conversation that day was around teams and building teams. And so as we start going around the room, the first question was, introduce yourself and your company and how many people work for you. And so it starts going around the room, and it gets to the entrepreneur who, by all definitions, is hands down the most successful in the room. He had, at the time, about 700 employees. And so it gets to him, and he introduces himself, says his name, says his company, and he says, in terms of how many people work for me, it's usually about half of them. And so everyone starts laughing, and he's making this joke about the fact that half the employees don't work. Half of them don't show up on time, half of them. And so for the next hour and a half, it was nothing but people complaining, entrepreneurs complaining about their teams. And we leave the meeting. A little bit later, my friend calls me and he says, "Hey, I just want to let you know that I've made my decision. I'm going to sell the company." He said, after that meeting, what I realized is I don't want to continue down this path. I don't want to have to hire more people. I don't want to build a team. And you know what's interesting? When I left the meeting that day as well, Frank,
Yeah.
I was just like all of them. I hated my team.
Yeah.
We were dysfunctional. People didn't show up on time. They didn't want to do their work. They were lazy,
Yeah.
all of those things. But I made a decision that day. I said, this is a choice, because I knew other entrepreneurs who actually loved their companies, who had teams that showed up, that put in the extra effort, that did whatever it takes to get results. And I made a decision that day that I was going to figure out, what do those entrepreneurs do that's different than what so many other entrepreneurs do? That led me down this path of becoming a serious student of business culture, organizational culture. And here's what's so fascinating. Over the next 2 to 3 years, my team completely changed. They went from being lazy, unmotivated, not wanting to work, not wanting to put in the effort, to top performers. And here's the most crazy thing. It's the same exact team. The team members didn't actually change.
Oh,
What changed was me, the person that I look at in the mirror every morning. That is the person who changed, that led me down this path to build a high performance team.
oh, that's awesome. Would you say that by changing your method of how you worked with the same team? I did. I was listening to you in another, like I said, in the other podcast, and you talked about alignment. Do you think does that have to do with this? Basically, how you work with the team and aligned your goals, and even though and let them be autonomous, but at the same time align with your vision and be able to be clear about these things, or how could you expand in this?
Yeah, love it, Frank. I mean,
Yeah.
you've done your homework. That's exactly one of the key components. So I would say there's 3 key components
Yep.
to making this shift. Number one is what you just said. It's the difference between alignment and autonomy, and how those two forces have to work together. The next one would be the difference between implicit and explicit communication. And then the third one would be this. It's the difference between trust and suspicion. So it's these 3 dichotomies that form a solid culture. And I'm happy to dive into however you want to dive into those if you want to. But it's those dichotomies that make the difference between a disengaged, low productivity to a high performance, high productivity organization. It's those 3 things.
Okay. Um, that's great. I mean, if you can dive a little bit more, just a little bit more before the next question, I think it's very important because this can even apply to a company that obviously is aiming to grow more using video to and leveraging video to grow to scale their business. But at the same time, I think it's very important to understand because I've worked with a lot of companies. Obviously, I'm not going to mention any names, but at the same time, you do notice when there's a disconnection in the team, and they're not clear, and it's just harder to work with those companies because there's not a link between those teams that make everything uh, be effective, and at the same time us understanding better how to get assets that really make effective ads or effective corporate videos behind their most of their platforms, specifically websites. So if you could tell us a little bit more about that, that would be amazing.
Absolutely. So, first of all, what I would want to say is this, that most entrepreneurs can never focus on growing and scaling their company the way they should because they're so busy putting out fires, dealing with employee drama, having to jump in and fix problems that get created. So, entrepreneurs want to grow. They want to build a scalable, successful company. But what happens is when you start building a team, you become the person who has to put out all these fires, fix all the mistakes that everybody makes. So, in order to get your marketing dialed in correctly, you as a leader have to get the culture piece right first, or else you're going to keep falling back into this trap where you're distracted by fixing problems and dealing with team employee drama. So alignment versus autonomy. Here's the thing. You cannot give your team autonomy. In other words, the freedom to go execute based on their gifts, their abilities, their skills, unless you have high alignment. Alignment means that we understand very clearly where we're going, why it matters, what my role is in this mission of where we're going and why it matters, and then how will my performance be judged. So when we talk about alignment, we have to start with these things. And when I say these words, people tune it out because they've heard these words, but you have to have a clear mission. You have to have a clear vision. You have to have values clearly spelled out for your organization. These things cannot just be documents. They can't just be something that hangs on the wall. They must be living, breathing pieces of the way you choose to operate. This is what we create alignment around. And until you create alignment around these things, you cannot turn people loose. Because right now, for someone listening, if you're hearing this and you think, every time I turn people loose, I'm never happy with the results. Mm-hmm. Well, let me tell you something from the flip side. They're not happy either because they're doing what they think is best. You didn't tell them which direction to aim. You didn't give them guidelines or guardrails to operate within. You just turn them loose. They go pour their hearts into it, and then they come back. You're frustrated because it's not what you expected. They're frustrated because they poured their heart into it. It's not right. So you've got to get alignment before you give autonomy. The next one is when we think about the difference between explicit and implicit communication. So many entrepreneurs are terrible at explicitly telling their employees what's expected, where we're going. They believe that implicitly those things are applied or implied, and it's not the case. Mm-hmm. We take for granted that we have the context, we have all the knowledge, so we have to over communicate. And so one of the things to think about if you're a leader is this, that when you get sick of repeating something, your team is just starting to hear it. When you are so tired of saying the same thing over and over again, they are just starting to understand it. One of the things, so I've got a good friend of mine that runs a company. They do roughly $100 million a year. They have, depending on the time of year, somewhat seasonal business, they have somewhere between 600 and 800 employees. His role is he's the co-founder, he's the CEO, but his role, he tells me, is the CRO. I am the Chief Reminding Officer. My job is to remind people where we're going, why it matters, what their role is in this process, and what is expected of them. In other words, how are they going to be judged on their performance? That is the goal. So when you think about your communication, and when someone goes and does something that's not up to your standards or incorrect, ask yourself, was this explicit? Did I explicitly explain, or was it implicit? Was it implied? Because 9 times out of 10, it falls back on our shoulders as leaders. I love to use this phrase, when furious, get curious. So when someone screws something up and you're furious, get curious about, did I clearly, explicitly explain all this in detail? And then the very last one, I'll make this one super short, the difference between trust and suspicion. All great cultures are built on trust. Whether it's a family, whether it's your friends, whether it's in the workplace, nonprofit, it doesn't matter. They are built on trust. But we live in a society where the default stance is suspicion. In other words, I don't trust you, Frank. You're probably up to no good. You're going to cheat on your time clock. You're not. You're going to be scrolling on social media when you should be working. You're going to be shopping when you should be working. The default and the whole way most organizations are operated is based on suspicion. It's based to ensure that you don't do the things I suspect you're doing. As a leader, if you want to build a high trust, highly engaged, highly productive organization, the default stance has to be trust. It has to be trust. You have to lead with trust. And you have this whole conversation. Let's just say today's your first day on the job, Frank. You and I sit down and I say, look, Frank, we're different than most organizations. You probably already know that just based on the way you came through the application process, based on all the stuff you already know about us and the conversations we've already had. But here's what I want you to understand. We completely trust that you, Frank, are the right person for this role. You wouldn't be sitting here if we didn't feel that way. We trust you to be able to do this job. Now, here's the other thing, Frank. When you give your word, whether explicit, in other words, you tell me you're going to do something, or implicit. Implicit means, Frank, that you have agreed to come to work here. Before you agreed to come to work here, you've seen our mission, you've seen our vision, you've seen our core values. So implicitly, you're telling me that you're willing to uphold these things. You're willing to work towards this vision and this mission along the way. So we trust you. But when you give your word, whether explicit or implicit, you have this gap that gets created from the time you give your word until the outcome from that event, from whatever you're committing to do. And in that gap, you're either building trust or you're building suspicion. I want you to continue building trust because trust is what's in the tank right now. Don't erode that trust by not honoring your word.
Wow. Thank you. That's perfect. All the quadrants. So my next question is, what are the key elements of a successful video marketing campaign, and how do you tailor these strategies for different industries? But I know that for you, and one of the reasons I got very excited before we answered this question, one of the reasons I got really excited of, interviewing you is that, yes, the whole thinking behind your agency's name, we already addressed that. But at the same time, you do say in your website that video has 95% probability to retain prospects. So you do think that video is important, depending on, what the purpose that it's behind it, but if you could tell us, what is a successful marketing campaign that uses video for you?
Absolutely. So first of all, video, like you said, in my opinion, and based on a lot of money spent on campaigns and testing things, video is the best method for the majority of the people to build trust and to convert strangers into paying customers, hands down. And the reason for that is simple, that it is the most human-like way of connecting with people in a digital world, right? So we can type words, we can send an email, and we can communicate with people that way. We can send pictures, or we can load pictures on Instagram, and we can communicate messages that way. But when we can see somebody in an environment, when we can see their facial expressions, when we can see them talking to us, right? It is the most natural way. It's the most human way of delivering that message. Here's what I would say in terms of when we think about video and how to use video, it's this, that you shouldn't do video just to do video. Like just because a competitor is using video on Instagram or on TikTok or YouTube, whatever, you shouldn't do it just because someone else is doing it. You need to figure out where you need the video in your marketing strategy. And a high level version of this is here's how I'm going to explain it. So we believe in what we call the natural progression, that there's a world full of people out there who are strangers. They don't know about your product or service, but they could benefit from your product or service. So your first job is to turn those strangers into friends. To do that, you've got to get them to know about you and they've got to like you. 2 simple steps. Video is an amazing tool to get strangers to know about you and to get them to like you. That's it. So when we think about our video in terms of strategy, though, we don't just go create a video because I feel like making a video about whatever today. I need to think about what kind of video can I make strategically that turns strangers into friends. That's a video that I need. I probably need multiple of those, right? Depending on the audience I'm speaking to. Yes. Next is we have to turn those friends into customers or clients of ours. And again, the element here is trust. There's not a better way in the digital world to build trust than with video. So think specifically about what type of videos do I need to build trust? How do I communicate in such a way on video to build that trust with my friends, the people who already know about me, who already like me? So those are different videos, different type of videos than the videos at the top. And then the final one I'll throw out there is, most marketers, I think, make a huge mistake in that they think their job is done when a customer pulls out their wallet and hands money across the table. In our opinion, that is just the beginning of something so much more and so much better. If we are strategic as marketers, we can turn ordinary customers into what we would call evangelists. People who love us so much that they're willing to go tell other people about us. And so you think about that. How can we use video to turn existing customers or clients into evangelists for our products and services? So from a big macro level, when we think about video and we think about campaigns, the answer is absolutely, for the vast majority of businesses, organizations, you need to be doing video. But you need to think through, how specifically is this video going to move people through that buying cycle or turn them into evangelists?
That's awesome. Thank you for that. That was really, really, really well explained. And I do agree. Video is a way to be able to connect emotionally with people in a way that actually words and emails can't, So you're connected with us, and I love that you're bringing this out. So in terms of content, engaging content, how do you make sure the video content captures attention and converts viewers into customers? And I know you sort of answered this, but in terms of the content itself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you're definitely way more of an expert in this specific area than I am. But here's what I'm gonna give you a super short answer to this, because you've got way better answers and stuff on this than I do. But from my perspective, when we think about video and how do we ensure that the video is going to do what we say it needs to do, three things come to mind. Number one, when we are about to create a video, we're thinking through the video itself. There's three questions I want to answer. Question number one, what do I want people to know after watching this video? Next question, what do I want people to feel after or during watching this video? And number three, what do I want people to do after watching this video? Those three simple questions will ensure that your video stays on point and on message. Now, it opens up a huge field for you, right? There's so many things you can do within those parameters, but unless you're just a content creator just to create content, your videos have to serve a purpose. And those three questions ensure that you stay on point and on purpose.
Yep. I agree with you, definitely. It's important to always have a call to action in the end. And I agree, definitely, if we tie emotions and we do all these steps, for us, this is the actual pivotal point of making videos. Whenever we produce for other agencies or when we actually do different videos for company owners, but a lot of them, that's what I mean when they deviate and they want to become almost like blog posts and just aimlessly. And I think by following these three steps, definitely it's a way to follow through with a video that actually is effective for the specific campaign or the specific market. So social media videos. With the rise of TikTok and Instagram and short videos, how can businesses use these formats effectively so that it's just not like you were saying, an influencer just ranting or, just going along, about their day and how they went to the supermarket? Just how can you use these videos effectively, being that they're so accessible nowadays to do?
I think first, Frank, is exactly what you just said. So many times people, business owners specifically, organizations, they see influencers and they want to do something similar. Influencers exactly. Create content for the sake of content. Mm-hmm. Their sole goal is engagement and more followers. Most organizations, most businesses have completely different goals for their videos. And yet we don't think about that when it comes time to actually create content. The other thing that I would say is this, that I don't think that every video or every organization or business should use every single platform, right? Just because you see a competitor on TikTok doesn't mean that you need to be on TikTok. Just because you see a competitor on YouTube doesn't mean you need to have your own YouTube channel. Again, it goes back to thinking strategically about how you're going to use those videos to bring people through your sales cycle. meet those strangers, convince them to be your friends, turn those friends into customers. So all I would say on that point is that to be effective, it goes back to that big picture. It goes back to what we call the natural progression and ensuring that if our strangers are middle-aged women, TikTok may not be the right platform for us, right? It may be somewhere else. So just thinking strategically about those things. One of the other things that I would say that I think sometimes we get messed up on is we come to video with a platform in mind. In other words, we come to it because we see reels. We're watching reels on Instagram.
Mm-hmm.
So we think we really should be doing reels. Instead of coming to video thinking my customers are here,
Mm-hmm.
I need to show up there for them, right? So
Therefore.
we approach it from our personal preferences or what we see competitors doing, and that's not the right way to approach it.
Instead of who I'm speaking to, and who I
Exactly.
have to attract. Okay.
Exactly.
Perfect. Okay. And from your experience and what you've lived in your agency, what common challenges do businesses face with video marketing, and how can they overcome them?
A few things here. Number one, inconsistency. In other words, we're excited about video right now. We're committed to video right now. And so we're going to do 5 videos or we're going to do 10, whatever the number is. So they start and then they realize like this is going to take time. It's going to take money. And so they become inconsistent. So they stop doing video marketing. And then 6 months down the road, they're like, we really need to be doing video marketing. So they jump back in. So number one, be consistent. What I would say is it's far better to do 2 videos a month consistently for a year than to do 24 videos over the course of 1 month, right? It's far better to think strategically, think long term, and to plan things out versus, I'm going to do a bunch of videos now and then I'm going to stop and, pick it back up later. So number one, consistency is so key for that. The other thing that I would say is that when we think about utilizing video, I think sometimes that we limit ourselves to what is possible or what we want to happen based on, again, what we see other people doing. So stylistically is what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Right. So we try to emulate other people's style. And when we try to emulate other people's style, it comes across as inauthentic.
Yeah.
So I think that's another important key.
Yes. Yes. Agreed. Many people want to go after what's trending, and okay, well, this other competitor or this person who is trying to sell the same products or the same services is doing this, so let's try to do it the same way in the same channels. And I think you can tell, and that's something you were mentioning also in that other podcast, that you just can tell when somebody's just not being genuine. And with Joe Rogan, that's what happens. You can tell immediately after a 20-minute conversation, because he does this 3-hour. And when I meant, sorry, not Seth Rogen, Joe Rogan, he makes these 3-hour interviews with people, and you can tell, and he even says that, when he's interviewed, in his off time, that he can tell after 20 minutes if somebody is trying to pretend to be somebody or being genuinely that person. So the same would you say that that's the same thing that happens, when they're trying to market to that specific customers?
Yeah, absolutely. It comes across, right? It's very subtle. It's all about authenticity. Like, just be yourself.
Yeah.
Be yourself. Don't try to emulate their style. Don't try to chase the trend. Just be you.
Yeah. And you were saying along the way that you originally, even though, you started in sales, you're also a very creative individual, right?
I like to think so.
Yeah. No, I definitely, I can tell because of your website, because of how well it's built, how it communicates, and it has this different departments, and you definitely, I was impressed that many people don't, offer video as part of their services. And for me, I could tell that you're a very creative individual. So, do you think thinking outside of the box? Um, can you give me an example of an unconventional strategy that led to success in your case with ugly mug marketing?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm gonna give you two super quick stories. So number one, we had a client who came to us, and their target audience was high school kids. It's a
Mm.
nonprofit organization, and what they're promoting is some testing during high school that would help prepare you for the workforce. So not necessarily like going to college or university, but something that if you chose not to go to high or college or university, that it would help you understand your gifts, your abilities, and where you might fit best into the workforce. And so they came to us and they really just said, look, we've got this budget. We need to reach high schoolers. We need to get this message out about this testing. So, number one, not many high schoolers want to take extra tests, right? Like that's not top priority for them. So, in brainstorming, what we came up with, and I'll spare you tons of details here, but we actually created a fictitious superhero character called the Jobinator. And the Jobinator became a real person in a real costume, real uniform that we designed. And he would go around to local high schools, saving teens from lame jobs, was his whole tagline. And so he would go around promoting super cheesy jobs like dog food taste tester, things like that. And he would show up during lunch times at all the various high schools, take photos with the kids, go around and do his whole spiel. The whole point, everything he talked about was the importance of understanding what your true skills and abilities are. So that was one thing that we did that was very unique, very different. That campaign was so successful. They ran that campaign for 9 years straight. It was so successful. Another one that we did internally is that this has been probably 6 years ago, maybe seven. I'm terrible with dates. We were doing a lot of SEO work at the time for clients. And that year, Justin Bieber won the Forbes most business minded celebrity, something along those lines. So he was
Yeah.
on the cover of Forbes magazine.
Yeah.
And so what we did was we identified some target clients that we wanted to work with on their search engine optimization. And we bought life-size cutouts of Justin Bieber. And what we did was we wrote this sales letter that explained, there's way more context here that I'm leaving out, but basically it tied Justin Bieber's success to the potential success of their website if they had search engine optimization. So we dropped these off, fully assembled life-size cardboard cutouts of Justin Bieber with a sales letter attached to it, with the decisions maker's name written in big letters across the envelope. And we would go into the businesses. We wouldn't ask to speak to the decision maker. We would just say, we have this for this person. We have this for Frank. I just want to leave it here for him. So in the lobbies of these businesses, we now have a life-size Justin Bieber cutout with an envelope on it with the sales letter in it, with the contact names on there. So we did that. We dropped those off. And then a week later in the mail, they got a copy of the Forbes magazine with Justin Bieber on the cover that said, hey, just checking in with you on this. Only went to the ones who hadn't already responded. And then the last thing we did was we actually sent them a week later, the ones who still hadn't responded, we sent them Justin Bieber's new album or recent album that had come out. And we had a message tied to it. That one campaign, we calculated it in terms of actual dollars out of pocket. It was just over $600 that we spent out of pocket on that campaign. Because we had a very targeted list, very small list that we did this for. That one campaign over the course of 3 weeks immediately brought us in over $26,000. So like immediately, some of those clients are still clients of ours. And so if you were to measure the true ROI on that one campaign that we spent $600 roughly out of pocket on, to date, I would be willing to bet we've easily, without question, made over $100,000, over six figures on a $600 investment. So again, completely outside the box, completely different, but very effective.
That was like a almost like a Blair Witch project of marketing, where they spend so little and they made so much back. That's amazing. That's an amazing
Yep.
story. And not only that, but how for every customer that you were having, you build something that for them it meant something completely different, from teenagers to the other customer, and it means for them something completely different, and it's emotionally tied, which is what we
Yep.
were speaking about at the beginning. um, and if we, I mean, just last question, if we're going to talk about the future, what do you see as the future of video marketing, and how should businesses prepare for these changes based on your experience and what you're
Sure.
seeing?
So
Hmm.
what I would say is this: I would say that authenticity is going to be key going forward and into the future. As video becomes easier to produce, to create, what that means is there's going to be a delusion as
Yeah.
in a bunch of people diluting the marketplace.
Dilute. Yes.
Yeah, with content, with video content. It's going to be imperative that you understand how video ties into your marketing, that you understand that video, just for the sake of video, is pretty meaningless, right? It needs to be strategic. It needs to be brought into a marketing system. It needs to be part of a marketing strategy. And then, same
Everybody
thing I
has
opened
iPhones
with.
now. Go ahead,
Yeah,
please.
everyone's
Yeah,
got
but
iPhones.
yeah.
It's going to come back to authenticity, being real, being the same person you are on video as you are when they walk in your store or walk in your place of business.
That's amazing. Wayne, thank you so much. You have given us a treasure coast of information here, and something that I did not expect. Going through, we always dive into video marketing, but it's just that the structure and the method that needs to go behind it, with your team and as a company, I think that's a very important aspect that a lot of people don't touch base on. And I think that for video to be successful, it's not only the strategy behind the campaign and behind the video, but also how you work with teams and are able to basically be laser focused as a whole and not lose track of what the entire uh, campaign or goal of the company is. And I really appreciate all the information you've given us. For us, it's very important because we also learn, and it's not only our goal that the audience that is listening to our podcasts, get something different every time, but at the same time, we learn because different backgrounds, different people give us a different step and another step to go above and beyond, of what we thought was correct. So we really
Yeah.
appreciate your time and everything you give us.
Thank you so much, Frank. Do you mind if I share one last quick thing?
Please,
Because
please do. Please do.
yeah, it
Thank
ties
you.
into
Yeah, yeah.
exactly what
Yes.
you just said.
Okay.
So there's this thing called the Johari window,
Okay.
Johari, Johari window. Google it, look it up. And what
Okay.
this basically says is that there are things that are known to other people that are not known to us. There are things known to other people that are not known to us. And what I can tell you is this: in life, in business, that it's the things that other people can see that we cannot see. That is our biggest expense. That is costing us more than anything else is costing us. And so it's imperative that you surround yourself with people who challenge you, who see things that you can't see, and who are willing to point out things that may be a little uncomfortable for you to hear. I'm a huge advocate for having coaches and mentors. Um, I'm an advocate for having friends, but the problem with friends and family is this: oftentimes they don't want to tell you the things you need to hear because they don't want to offend you. So surround yourself with people who are willing to call you out when you need to be called out. Surround yourself with people who can see things, who have been where you're trying to get to, who can help you get there by showing you how you're sabotaging yourself. So I'll shut up now and end on that from me. But thanks again for the opportunity, Frank.
No. Thank you, Wayne. And I absolutely will surround myself more and more with the right people. And what I mean with the right people is people that basically can tell me how to grow and become better every day. And if that includes receiving information about something that I'm not doing right and we're not doing right, definitely those are the right kind of people. Like you're mentioning, it's not the people that just hide behind a curtain and say, hey, everything looks amazing, you're doing the right thing, go along, but there's other people that have a lot of experience and are able to say, yeah, but you could avoid these pains if you start, you know, moving along this right direction. So thank you. Yeah, thank you very much for all the information. And Wayne, I hope we can get you as a guest later on, and learn more from you, but I know our time is up, but I definitely want to bring you along, hopefully in the future, to learn more, of what you do and what you can provide, to this amazing audience. Thank you so much.
Absolutely.
Have a great
Thank you.
week. See, I told you what an amazing guy, isn't he? Don't forget to subscribe or follow us wherever you are so you can get more of these amazing tips on how to leverage video the right way to scale your business. And if you have any questions or want to know a little bit more about Wayne Mullins and his company, please visit him at uglymugmarketing.com. See you in the next time. And don't forget, video is all about emotional connection, and it's the best way to connect with all of your customers. See you in the next time.